Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into what I think is the central mystery of our time. Something highly unusual is happening to humanity right now. We're living in what is, objectively speaking, the safest, most technologically advanced era in human history. We've got it pretty good, right? And yet, anxiety disorders are just exploding across the globe. Millions of people are waking up every single morning with racing thoughts, this constant buzzing sense of worry, unexplained fear, and a nervous system that literally feels like it never ever switches off. So why are humans becoming more anxious than ever before? Let's unpack this paradox. We really have to ask ourselves, are these racing thoughts and this constant heavy worry just a massive collective mental health problem? Or are we looking at something much deeper here? Is this actually just a biological response to a modern world that our ancient brains were literally never designed to handle?
Which brings us to Section 1, Anxiety as Evolution's Survival Tool.
To really get this, we first need to validate what you're feeling and establish a core fact right out of the gate. Anxiety is not a design flaw. Actually, for the vast majority of human history, it was an absolutely essential tool. It was the exact mechanism that helped your ancestors survive long enough to, pass down their genes to you. Picture an early human hunter-gatherer. They're out foraging, minding their own business, and suddenly they hear the faint rustling of tall grass. Instantly, anxiety activates their fight or flight response. It's like a biological alarm bell. Their brain dumps stress hormones straight into their bloodstream. Heart rate skyrockets, attention sharpens to a razor's edge, and their muscles immediately tense up, preparing for explosive action. This whole biological cascade was perfectly engineered to help our ancestors fight off predators, avoid starvation, and survive immediate physical danger. The classic tiger in the grass.
But here is where we hit a massive biological mismatch. You see, our human nervous system evolved incredibly slowly, over hundreds of thousands of years, to react to those intense life-or-death situations. But modern life? Well, modern life completely changed the script in just a few decades. Today, the tiger in the grass is gone. But your brain? It still reacts exactly the same way. It totally misinterprets highly modern, non-lethal pressures. Things like looming work deadlines, financial stress, someone criticizing you on social media, or just the constant pinging of notifications as those exact same ancient survival threats. The end result is a nervous system that stays switched on for far, far too long.
Let's move into Section 2, the Information Overload Crisis.
Honestly, never before in human history has the brain had to process so much information. Just think about a typical day for a second, and imagine all of this hitting you at once. Boom. News alerts, emails, social media feeds, text messages, endless short-form videos, hyper-targeted advertisements, political conflict, global crises. It's relentless. Your brain evolved to process information relevant to a small, local tribe, a few dozen people maybe. Now it's carrying this completely unprecedented psychological burden of absorbing the entire planet's problems every single day.
Now, what's really fascinating here is how modern platforms essentially hijack our ancient survival instincts. Throughout evolution, belonging to a group wasn't just, a nice thing to have. It meant survival. If you were cast out of the tribe, you died. Period. So the brain interprets social status as critically, life or death important. Fast forward to today, and modern platforms absolutely exploit this drive. They force us into this loop of constantly comparing our appearance, our success, our relationships, our wealth, our whole lifestyle against highly curated, perfect versions of other people.
And because this digital social comparison is happening 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, it generates an endless, exhausting stream of pressure, deep insecurity, and a persistent fear of missing out. Your brain is literally perceiving a constant threat to its social standing. And what does that lead to? Chronic, unyielding psychological stress.
Okay, moving right along to Section 3, Vicious Cycles of the Body and Mind.
The absolutely crucial point here is that modern anxiety doesn't just pass through us, it creates these compounding biological loops that physically trap us. Take the sleep and anxiety loop, for example. It goes like this. Step 1, poor sleep actively increases your emotional reactivity, making your brain super sensitive to perceived threats. Step 2, because of this, your decision-making gets worse, your stress tolerance takes a nosedive, and your baseline anxiety shoots up. And then, the kicker, step 3, that rising anxiety physically prevents your brain from falling asleep the next night. You're completely wired, but desperately tired. It's a brutal cycle.
And totally compounding this whole situation is the modern loneliness epidemic. As we mentioned, humans evolved as highly social creatures where physical connection was literally a matter of life and death. Today, even though we might have thousands of digital connections online, those pixels on a screen simply cannot replace meaningful, face-to-face human relationships. When we lack real, tangible connection, the brain interprets that prolonged isolation as a severe potential survival risk, which directly feeds into feelings of intense stress and emotional distress.
And if you ever needed proof that your anxiety isn't just all in your head, we just have to look at how the brain and body communicate. When your stress remains elevated for long periods of time, both systems suffer. You start experiencing very real, tangible physical symptoms: a rapid heartbeat, tight muscle tension, unprovoked sweating, digestive changes, deep fatigue, brain fog, and intense difficulty concentrating. Your body is physically bracing for an attack that, well, is never actually coming.
Which brings us to Section 4, why young people are hit hardest.
Younger generations have grown up in an environment unlike anything humans have ever experienced before. I mean, they are facing constant digital connectivity, immense social media pressure, fierce academic competition, huge economic uncertainty, and just relentless information overload. Because many of them have literally never experienced a truly disconnected world, their young brains developed under historically unprecedented conditions. They're constantly navigating a world that directly and continuously triggers those ancient survival mechanisms we've been talking about.
All right, let's get into some solutions in Section 5, Biological Reboot, Rewiring the Anxious Brain.
So here is the really good news. Your brain remains highly adaptable throughout your entire life. We can actually take control and intentionally signal safety to our overwhelmed nervous systems. By actively implementing specific strategies, things like regular exercise, locking in consistent sleep schedules, putting some hard limits on excessive social media use, actually spending time outdoors in nature, fostering meaningful in-person social connections, practicing mindfulness, and building structured daily routines, we are essentially hacking our biology. We are replicating the tribal, natural, and structured conditions our brains actually evolved for in the first place. Doing this actively signals safety to the nervous system, allowing the brain to finally power down those alarm bells and making anxiety highly manageable.
The biggest takeaway here is that rising anxiety isn't proof that humanity is somehow becoming weaker. Not at all. It's simply evidence that our ancient biology is struggling to adapt to screens, noise, constant notifications, and endless uncertainty. Understanding anxiety isn't about eliminating fear entirely. It's about deeply understanding why your brain responds the way it does. Because once we understand the system, we can begin to work with it instead of against it. We can finally stop fighting our own biology.
So I want to leave you with this final thought. Are you ready to start working with your biology instead of against it? Are you ready to recognize your anxiety for what it really is, an outdated survival response, and start taking the steps to signal safety to your modern mind? If you found this explainer eye-opening, I'd highly encourage you to subscribe to BioLogic as we continue decoding the incredibly fascinating human system in our future explainers. Thanks so much for joining us, and keep learning.